Sometimes I wonder if the hardest group of people for me to be merciful towards is other Christians. If I'm honest with you, I think that as my concern for those in poverty and those facing injustice goes up, often what I see is at the same time my mercy and compassion and patience actually with other Christians seems to go down. And there seems to be this direct correlation between the two. And in this week's Monday Mercy, I want to unpack that a little bit. It's one of the things we'll touch on at this year's Jubilee Plus Churches That Change Communities conference. It's going to be one of our seminars where actually myself and my church leader, Paul Mann, talk about some of the ways in which we have frustrated each other over the years. Because I'm an activist, I guess, would be a word that I might use. I'm someone who I care about the church being at the heart of social action and social action being at the heart of the church. I care about the church making a difference to the community around us. And sometimes the way I express myself in a church context, certainly in a leadership context, is by going on and on and on about it and really badgering, come on, why don't we do more? Why don't we spend more? Why don't we give more? Why isn't this more a part of church life? And so sometimes I find my frustrations with other Christians are really hard to manage, whether that's leaders or whether it's just people who come up. I mean, you'll have had these conversations if you're involved in social action. I'm sure you'll have had people come up to you and sort of say, well, do you know what? It's great for you that God's called you to that, but God's called me to something different. This doesn't need to matter to me as much as it matters to you. People maybe have come up to you and said things like, yeah, but we know that people just need to get a job, or people just need to work a bit harder, or, you know, people make bad choices, or, you know, they've all got plasma TVs anyway. I'm sure you'll have heard comments like that. And I know what happens in my heart when I hear comments like that. It's not usually mercy. Usually it's the complete opposite, which is judgment and frustration and to be honest, sometimes a bit of anger too. And so what does it look like for us to be a people of mercy? Because actually what it looks like to be a people of mercy is that we are those who are merciful all the time to everyone. That's really, really hard, but it's what we're called to. Jesus said, blessed are the merciful, for they shall be shown mercy. And I don't think it's like a thing where you put in some mercy and then God shows you mercy. I think what that means, or certainly in my experience anyway, is that the more I cultivate a heart of mercy, especially to those I find it hard to be merciful to, the greater my understanding of God's mercy for me, the more in awe I am of his mercy for me, the more astonished and aware I am of how merciful, how wonderfully merciful he has been to me. So that's one of the seminars at this year's Jubilee Plus conference. We'll be unpacking that a bit more. What does it look like to be frustrated with other Christians, including your church leaders? And actually for your church leaders to be frustrated with you, because maybe if you're anything like me, you just don't know when to quit, and maybe you shouldn't. And we'll unpack that a little bit in the seminar. The other seminar that I'm responsible for at the Jubilee Plus conference is getting mercy in the DNA of the church. So these things are interrelated, because we'll only get mercy in the DNA of the church when all of us, every follower of Jesus, realises this is something that no one is excluded from. No one gets to opt out of it. We are all called, as Jesus says in Luke 6 verse 36, be merciful just as your Father is merciful. This isn't just an invitation, it's actually a call on our lives as those who follow Jesus, that if we want to reflect his heart to the people around us, whether they're Christians who annoy us, whether they're people whose lives are in ruins and we want to help them and our compassion is stirred towards them, whoever it might be, God is calling us to be merciful just as he is merciful. And for that not to be like a department of church life, but for it to be in the very heart of church life. And in my main session at the Jubilee Plus conference, I'm going to be looking at what does it look like for us to grow and grow and grow in mercy towards those in poverty in our nation, especially in terms of the deepening crisis around us. What does it look like to deepen our sense of being mercy carriers, mercy bringers, as we see the needs around us escalate? I really hope you'll join us on the day. Nothing better than being there in person if you're able to. There'll be worship, ministry, exhibitors, networking and all that sort of stuff. But also join us online if you're not able to come. The link's on the screen now. Have a great week.